Hey guys, it's Madeline, founder of Italy Unknown. Yeah, so we landed, we made it, everything's fine. If no one's actually following this in real time, but if someone was following this in real time, they noticed there was a good few hours in between the last podcast and then this one. A day or so was just because I was just getting settled in, and I had so much stuff to tell you guys, but to tell you, I need to stop doing that. But anyways, I had so much stuff to tell you guys, and oh my gosh, I need to get over this. I had so much stuff to tell you just about like the plane and stuff like that. Like basically the 8-hour plane ride was more intense than I thought it would be. I think it was just, I thought I'd be able to fall asleep easier. Like it still wasn't awful. Like it definitely wasn't the worst thing in the world, but it definitely wasn't great. Because I got really lucky. I had two people who sat beside me who were actually like really nice, really caring people who were both from Kent. Well, actually so the thing that made it a little more difficult was that I was in aisle of 4 and I was one of the middle two. But honestly, like overall, like there was no, I get fairly, I have fairly bad motion sickness, but there was no motion sickness because it was such a huge plane and we were up at such a high level. So that really made it okay, because if it had been smaller or lower, that really would have been an issue. Because at least it was like it's almost like you were just in like a still, like almost like you were in a car, not moving the whole time. And so it just, and because it's black outside or people put their windows or their, blinds down for a good half of it by request of the pilot, just because of, people trying to fall asleep and stuff. And they didn't want the sunset or the sunrise to get in the way of that. But anyways, and so it was amazing. Like that part was great. And then also like so I had downloaded like a lot of Netflix, a lot of podcasts. I told you that last time. But turns out I like didn't need them. Like I genuinely listened to one podcast maybe, and that wasn't even that much. And then I listened to music some of the time, and those were only on like the beginning flights. But on that flight, I genuinely did not watch anything because they had to, I figured I'm like, oh, they'll have like one movie or two, but it was amazing. Their movie section and like TV series was amazing. Like you could watch like The Middle and like, but there was also like super up to date TV shows. Like there was, or movies, and there was like Black Panther, and there was, well, this won't be depending on when you're listening to this, but at the time, Black Panther had just come out, and there was I, Tonya, and, gosh, I'm trying to think of some of the other titles. Red Sparrow with Jennifer Lawrence. And like there was all these really new like movies that I had wanted to see for so long. So it was really cool because I had a list of like stuff I wanted to listen to. Oh, and there was also Lady Bird, which was one of the things I really wanted to watch. Lady Bird, I wanted to watch Red Sparrow, and then I wanted to watch I, Tonya. And I started watching, what did I start watching? I don't think I started watching either of those. I started watching something, and it got I started watching Ingrid Goes West, which was with Aubrey Plaza, in it, and that was really good, but it was just really dark, and I was like, I'm already on a plane, I'm already in, like, my mental conditions isn't already amazing, so I'm like, I'm just gonna have a hard pass on that, and, so I decided to change to I, Tonya, which was actually a really, really good, a great movie. It was, again, still a tiny bit dark, but like overall it was really funny, and like it really gave an interesting introspective on the life of Tonya Harding, which, who had the whole scandal about, who was accused of, planning a hit to, to break another girl's knee on the, Olympic, ice skating team. Just for like, competition reasons on her own team, which was also, kind of messed up. But I think basically, I don't know, I'd be curious to find out if she had approached someone about this and was like, hey, I want to make a movie about this, or if like a director came to her and was like, hey, we want to hear your side of the story. Because either way, I think that's like cool. Like, I think it would be cooler if a director had come to her, but like, it was just an interesting, because I think that probably is what happened, because they definitely did notice some of her flaws. Like they picked out some of her flaws that like, even though, so like basically like her side of the story was just like, I didn't do it, my boyfriend did it, but it was like cool because I was like, because anytime I heard that story I was like, yeah, right, your boyfriend did it. But it was just a really interesting, like, because they showed all like the history of abuse and like high highs and low lows and like the intensity and the passion they had for each other, which could definitely easily translate into something very, very bad, which did multiple times. She was hurt many times in that relationship. which I also did know, which I thought was really interesting. And she had a lot of financial hardships. I didn't realize that. That was really interesting as well. Anyways, yeah, and I'm sorry if I keep on stuttering or forgetting the words. A, I'm kind of tired, and B, I feel like as soon as you start learning another language, your own language capabilities goes down like 10% every time. And so I've been learning a little bit of Italian. Ciao is hello and goodbye. Scusi, which I say a shit ton, is excuse me or like sorry. And I think I thought for a while that was like Florentine and like Italian to like say, but honestly, like they just don't give a fuck. Like they like, which I'll explain more in a different podcast. I don't have time to get into all that. They're amazing and they've been really good so far, but they also like are very like, like not like Midwest. Like if I bump into someone, I'm always like, oh, excuse me, sorry, excuse me. And like they're more of just like, I think especially like because they can tell that I'm American, they just kind of like are like whatever, like I don't really care about you and what you're doing. But yeah, anyway, so ciao, scusi. There's also another longer word for I'm sorry, but that's like it's like puligari or something like that. You can look it up. That was a little bit too intense for me to try to figure out. And then I feel like there was another word that I knew. Yeah, I mean mainly just ciao and scusi are the things that I mainly said. But yeah, overall, it's been good so far. It was like kind of a, but so the plane ride was very stressful and I basically just wasn't able to fall asleep. I thought, I'd pull out my tray table, lean my head on it and I'd be fine. I'd be out, but it was just, I couldn't get comfortable, which was frustrating. But yeah, overall the plane ride was okay. We just had a few interesting incidents, like a woman fainted and like I think she might have had a little bit of a mental handicap, and so I think they were worried it was a seizure, and like then there was issues because she was like from I think they were all from like a different country, and so like they were having a little bit of like translation issues, like for some reason they like, because they immediately when that happens they like lay her down on the ground, which is procedure, and for some reason like her brothers were very upset about that. I don't know if it was religious reasons, I don't know if it was traditional reasons, I don't know what it was, but they were like very upset about that and were like, why did you lay her on the ground, that's not okay, and like didn't really want him to help. And I felt bad for the flight attendant because he's like, this is my job, like I have to do this. But so that was an interesting twist. I got a little bit nervous and I was feeling a little bit helpless. So we just started praying the Hail Marys until she, got back up, which made me, feel a little bit better, at least about, the situation. Cause I'm freaking out. I'm like, if someone dies on this plane, I'm like, I'm going to freak out. Cause I didn't realize, cause somebody brings over an oxygen tank. I'm like, oh my gosh, like things are happening. But it's okay. It didn't turn out to be that. It wasn't that deep. It was still intense, but not that intense. But yeah, and then so that was crazy. And then also the other person on our plane someone started smoking in the bathroom, which is, if you've never been on a plane before, you cannot smoke in a plane. And, it's just something that I've literally never experienced. And like, I just kind of smelled it at first because I was pretty near the bathroom and I was like, oh, like that's a weird smell. And I figured, I'm like, oh, like maybe I just didn't smell it on the person next to me, like for a while. Like maybe they had smoked and they had moved differently. And I finally started to smell it. I was like, whatever. And then I hear someone come on the loudspeaker and they're like, they were pissed. They going off about whoever decided, like, excuse me, passengers, I'm sorry to have to interrupt your flight or whatever, but we have had someone who has smoked in the bathroom. We have not. And they were like really mad. They were like, if we find you, we will turn you over to the Dutch authorities. That is not okay. That is not allowed on this plane craft or whatever. It was really, it like got intense. And then they also brought up a good point. They were like, right now we cannot find the cigarette, so we are not sure if it is still lit. And I'm like, I think that was kind of pushing it a little bit, but I think they were trying to guilt someone into coming forward. But anyways, yeah, that. And then the last big exciting thing that happened to me in particular was I had like packed a little baggie, and actually I'll have to tell you guys later what I packed because I think it was actually kind of helpful. So like I packed like a decent amount of things to like help me like relax and like just feel refreshed on the plane on the long flight. And so, but anyways, and so I took this little baggie to the bathroom. I had to excuse myself over the guy who was sitting there. I felt really bad. He seemed a little bit like quieter and I didn't want to bother him. But he was nice and like moved out of the way. And so I was waiting in the bathroom and, I let someone go in front of me, whatever. And so anyway, so eventually I get inside and then, so then, everything's going well. I like had an experience with the bathroom. Like, every time you go back into a bathroom, they're on a plane, you're like, oh, okay, I forgot what this is like. I forgot, it's kind of like a dark hole, and, just kind of like, I was like, okay, and I'm pee shy, so I had to plug my ears, and, eventually I was able to go to the bathroom, so that was fine. And then I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, what I'm gonna do? I'm like, I'm gonna quick wash my face, whatever. And eventually take out my contacts because I was wearing contacts. And so I was like, okay, we're going to take out the contacts. And as I'm taking out my contacts, I'm starting to feel like a little bit of turbulence. There's like some bumpiness. I'm like, okay, like something's going on here. I'm not entirely sure what, but something's going on. And so it was kind of bumpy, and then I was like, okay, like whatever, it's fine. And so at this point I have both my contacts out. I'm trying to hurry up because I'm like, oh, this isn't, like, I shouldn't be in the bathroom if it's this turbulence. And then I hear the like ding go on outside, and I was like, oh shit, I bet that's the fasten your seatbelt sign. And so I was like, okay, I'm like, maybe it's not, it's fine. I'm like, just try to keep on going. And then I hear someone over the loudspeaker said, excuse me, we're starting to hit some pretty bad turbulence. Like, we're gonna need everyone who is standing, please go back and sit down in your seats and fasten your seatbelts. And I'm like, shoot, they usually don't like say it. So I was like, shoot, like this must be intense. And so as I'm squirting my contact solution into my contact case, it's like I'm like riding a mini roller coaster. It was crazy. And so eventually I was able to get everything together. I like grabbed everything off of the shelf and I just ran to my seat. But yeah, I got back fine. Everything was fine. I just kind of freaked myself out. I was just like, are you kidding me? Is this really what's happening right now? And I felt bad because the guy next to me, I think, also had the same thing, because I got back to my seat and I was like, oh, the guy isn't there. So I think he also kind of had to deal with that in the bathroom. So I felt bad. But yeah, we landed okay. And then our flight was delayed by maybe like an hour or two to Florence. But that really wasn't a big deal. It was a smaller plane, so like a little more turbulence, maybe a little more nauseous. I was pretty nauseous all day on Thursday, just because, I'd been on so many back-to-back-to-back flights. And so over maybe 24 or 25 hours of traveling, I had slept maybe about 2 or 3 hours, because I got 2 or 3 hours on the plane, which is apparently more than most people got. So I guess I should feel very lucky for that. But other than that, I feel like my body has adjusted pretty quickly, to this. I mean, it'll probably be hard to get up tomorrow because right now it is 11:46. I should be going to bed because I have to wake up at 7 for an orientation meeting tomorrow. But I mentioned it, and my roommate Lauren, she was very sweet. The roommate here, not my roommate, I can't. She was like, like you should really just record it now. Like, it'll bother you if you don't. And I was like, yeah, you're right. So I recorded it. So here we go. Here's a not quite sleepy time recording, but almost. We already took the nighttime meds, so I'll start getting tired here in a second. But yeah, so I will keep you guys updated. I'm a little bit more Italian than know. But yeah, I can't wait to share all this cool stuff that I've learned about with you guys, with you. And anyways, yeah, I'll talk to you later. Bye.